Hello and welcome to Equal Time. My name is Thomas Holbein. I am the chief publisher of the South Texas Voice and owner of Holbein Publishing. And this is the very first edition of Equal Time. I'm glad to have a very special guest today for my first show, Mr. Alex Garcia Jr., who is running for a JP Court and judge in Precinct 2, Place 2. So I'd like to introduce at this time my guest, Mr. Alex Garcia. Alex, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you for having me here today. And it's really an honor to say, number one, that I'm your first guest. And my name is Alex Garcia Jr. I'm running for Justice of the Peace, Precinct 2, Place 2.
Alex, first, the people need to know why you're qualified, who you are, what makes you want to run for judge in Precinct 2, Place 2. And if you'll take time right now to let the people know, my name's Alex. Who am I? Will you take this time, please, to introduce
Absolutely,
yourself?
and thank you for the opportunity to allow me to do that. My name's Alex Garcia. I've been a part of this community, born and raised here, graduate from Carroll High School, graduate from Del Mar College, and graduated from the University of Houston. And I made a conscientious decision after having a short career in the mortgage business to come back to this community because I felt there was a need for my children to know their grandparents and their family and have true values. And so we moved back from San Antonio many years ago because I had an opportunity to go into business. So I became self-employed. For those individuals that are out there today, becoming self-employed, it's just not a matter you put up a sign and you open the doors and that's it. There's a lot of requirements. There's requirements that come from the Department of Health, from the city, in order to be able to accomplish that, from the state comptroller's office. So that experience in itself helped me learn a lot about how to succeed in business. And then I was in business for almost 25 years. I've owned 5 grocery stores. One of them, which is no longer in existence, was the Supermax stores, which I loved. I loved retail. My whole passion, even as we were growing up, I worked since I was 11, was customer service. And I believe in communicating with the people. I believe the reason that I succeeded the number of years that I did was because of the fact that I always listen. I have no issues discussing any issue with any individual that's out there to try and help them, because I believe that's what's required of us. Later, then as business grew and sometimes the community grows a different way and the economy affects everyone, it affected my business. So I made a conscientious decision to close down the businesses or sell or develop in any way that I could. And then during that tenure, I'd also owned a restaurant, a storage facility, and a marketing company. And in every venue that I had the opportunity of learning something. So I hope to be able to bring that to the court. In addition to that, then later I worked for a large retailer, both Walmart and H-E-B, as a manager. So I managed large amounts of people. The amount of people that I hired at my biggest store was over 300 individuals. And managing multi-million-dollar budgets. My budget at my store was $90 million in sales a year. That gives you and exposes you an opportunity that a lot of people don't have, and for that I'm blessed. Later I became a commercial lender. I enjoyed helping individuals trying to fulfill their dream, trying to go business, finding programs that would accommodate them, and if it didn't work, explain why it didn't work and what they needed to do to correct it. Sometimes it just has to do with your credit report and how you're rated. In addition to that, then today I serve in a capacity of public relations and fleet sales and business development for a large Toyota dealership, Mr. Mike Shaw Toyota. And I'm blessed to have his support, and I'm seeking this position. And I believe people should vote for me. Number one is because I'm going to be open. I have an open ear. I believe in the open door policy. I believe everybody should have that opportunity. I also believe that you need to respect the courts and that people don't get belittled, whether it's a defendant or a plaintiff. If I'm sitting on that bench or when I'm sitting on that bench, I won't allow disrespect.
Let me stop you right there, Alex, and go back over some of the things you just said. One, it's important that the listeners and the voters in Precinct 2, Place 2, understand the man's educated. The man has extensive business experience, successful business, 5 grocery stores. Mr. Garcia has extensive administration experience managing employees, and the difference between a job and owning your own business is 80 hours a week. So working hard is nothing new to you. You know how to put the time in, and his success rate is very high with his grocery stores and the businesses that he's been in. Owned a restaurant, and I know how much I like to go to the grocery store. Who doesn't? And to have a grocery store that was part of the community, and I like that you're a people person, and that's what they call JP Court's a people's court. What would you say to the voters and the listeners on if you were elected a judge, how would you represent the people?
Well, I believe it's very important that you have to be able to communicate with everybody. Being bilingual will assist me because there are individuals in this community that hesitate sometimes to want to find out what they can do to pursue either a case or a fair representation in the courts because they don't know who to communicate with. Hopefully I'll be able to do that for them, so they can talk directly to the individual that's in charge and can be sitting on that bench to give them a comfort level. That's extremely important. I believe the fact that, as I indicated and you did as well, is the fact that I had my own businesses. I understand from a business owner perspective what the challenges are, whether it's got to do with ordinances, whether it's got to do with hot check riders, whether it's got to do with any venue that's out there for a business to exist. In addition to that, I have 5 children that I love very dearly, and 4 of my 5 children still live here. And having been an elected official in the past, what I've been able to do is be able to understand city budgets, being able to understand where do the dollars come from in order to allow a community to exist. Where are the revenues?
Let's talk about that, Alex. You were elected to city council.
Yes, sir.
And what year did that take place? And what drove you to run for city council? And let's talk about that election.
Okay. Back in late 90s, in 1997, the very first time I ran 2 years before that in 1995. And I will tell you a catastrophic event that happened in this community that was a great loss to us. 2 days before the election, Selena Quintanilla had lost her life. And unfortunately, that affected the entire community. And I understand because it affected all of us. And so people just did not come out and vote. But the very first time I ran, I lost by like 1,000 votes. I was, at the time, one of the highest. I was in 4th place. And in city council, when you're running at large, you've got to be one of the 3 top vote getters. But I decided I had the desire and the fire because I knew that I could bring a difference. Having been raised, my parents did not have a lot of money. Dad worked for HEB, believe it or not, as an assistant manager. But mom didn't work, but Dad had decided to go into business for himself. So he instilled in us the value of a dollar. He instilled in us the value of understanding what education was about because he always felt that that's where we needed to go. That's why we pursued it was a non-negotiable in our family not to believe that we had to get our education. And as the oldest of 4, it was my responsibility to set the pace, and I did. And so with that, I'm blessed in that sense. But it gave me an opportunity to understand that there's a lot of disparities in this community from individuals on an economic level, that their quality of life is the street at the end of the block or where water is gathered in a canal and nobody's addressing it. And so what I was hoping to be able to do was when I sat on these boards, and what I learned was that I could bring a quality of life understanding to different individuals, because quality of life is just not the bayfront only and the arts. It also has to do with the infrastructure needs that we have in place. And so that afforded me. It also created in me the want and the desire to make a difference in this community. And I still have that.
That's great. And you mentioned the first time you ran, you lost by 1,000 votes. But your perseverance and your desire to fight and keep running and become a public official and then win, there's a lot to be said for that. You didn't give up. And there's other JP judges that have run more than once. They don't win always on their first time, but they never give up. And that's what builds a community leader. The building blocks of a community leader is Mr. Alex Garcia Jr., with no question, because he's persevered, He's been an elected official in city council, and he has been there and understands administration and what it takes to be a leadership. And to honestly, to be a judge in any level, JP court, state or federal, it takes leadership and understanding people. And with the administration skills and the experience that Mr. Garcia has, I see him as a very strong candidate in Precinct 2, Place 2. With no question, this is going to be a very good race, and I'm grateful to have him on my show for the very first show of Equal Time. This is Equal Time. I'm Thomas Holbein, and I'm going to bring the voice. You know, I'm not running for anything, and I'm not hiding from anything, and I tell it like it is. That's what the South Texas Voice is all about, and that's exactly what we do. You either hate me or you like me, I'm going to tell it just the way it is. You're watching Equal Time with Thomas Holbein and my very special guest, Mr. Alex Garcia Jr. We're going to take a quick commercial break and be right back with more topics and more Alex Garcia Jr. running for Precinct 2, Place 2.
Have you been arrested or are potentially facing criminal charges? You need a trial attorney who is well-versed in the courtroom. Joe Flores has handled hundreds of criminal cases and many of them to trial. Joe Flores can provide you with competent representation to protect your constitutional rights in state and federal court. Joe Flores can help if you have been arrested or facing criminal charges. The law offices of Joe Flores. Equal justice for all. Have you or a loved one suffered a stroke, heart attack, unexplained low blood pressure, or death during dialysis? The FDA has issued warnings and recalled the product Granuflo and Naturalite used in dialysis. At least one national company failed to warn the public that over 900 people had suffered cardiac arrest or death. A condition called metabolic alkalosis developed, which may have caused the harm. Call the law offices of Joe Flores today. With a combined 25 years of experience in the medical field and as a trial lawyer, Joe Flores can help. Call now.
Hi, this is attorney and board-certified nurse practitioner Joe Flores on behalf of Vasquez Flores Home Health. Nursing homes have their place, but having care in your own home is very important. Call today for more information. Backed by over 20 years of experience, registered nurse Priscilla Vasquez can answer your questions about home care. Call 881-9922. That's 881-9922 today.
And we're back with Equal Time. Thank you for tuning in. This is the very first edition and show, and I am the host, Thomas Holbein, the CEO of Holbein Publishing and the South Texas Voice. And our very special guest here today is Mr. Alex Garcia Jr., running for Justice of the Peace, Precinct 2, Place 2. Alex, it is an honor to have you on my very first show, my first guest. Thank you very much for coming in again. And we're talking about you as a candidate and your race and your responsibilities and what qualifies you to be Justice of the Peace, Precinct 2, Place 2. So let's talk about your responsibilities. You've been elected as city council member.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You've owned 5 grocery stores, a restaurant, been self-employed, understand administration. Tell the voters what qualifies you, with this experience, to be judge. To explain your leadership to the voters, why Garcia Jr. should be judge.
I believe I should be judged because I'm an advocate for this community. I'm an advocate for the small businessman. I'm an advocate for tenants who may be abused by their landlords. I'm an advocate for making sure of doing what's right, of common sense. I'm an advocate for making sure that everybody has fair and impartial justice. As a JP, it's about administrating judicial responsibilities, listening to truancy cases, trying to help revamp the way why kids are not wanting to go to school, and hopefully to having those in detailed discussions with the parents on what their responsibilities are when their children do not attend school. there's only one way we can change the future for all of us, and that's by giving and offering our children a better education. And I believe that's JP's role. Listening to traffic violators to see if they were in violation, what their options are. Listening to those businesses that may have hot check writers and what their venues are in order to try to collect those hot checks that's owed to them for services delivered. Also being able to listen to those tenants and landlords that are trying to evict their tenants. Did they follow the protocol that they had agreed to? You've got to be able to read those contracts. Having a hands-on experience from the administration side, from budgeting side, realizing when you're self-employed that you're the last one on the totem pole to receive pay or compensation, and that your success in life is by your ability to administrate appropriately, being sensitive to others' needs, and understanding of what your responsibilities are. And that's what the People's Court is. That's why we call JP the People's Court, because that's who we represent. And we've got to be fair and we've got to be impartial in our rulings.
In reference to truancy,
Yes,
okay, kids are supposed to be in school,
Yes,
all right, and it's their responsibility to be in class on time, in school. It's the parents' responsibility. Now, and when truancy fills these courtrooms up, this is one thing that I want to definitely address, is that it starts in the home. And the parents are the ones responsible for their child getting to school on time and making sure their attendance is up and not allowing the child to run over them. And in a lot of situations, the children just will not listen or obey their parents whatsoever. And then there are cases where the parents are just simply not effectively trying at all, and there's a complete breakdown in responsibilities. What do you say to the parents out there, to encourage them to help get their kids in school? Because this is one issue that's certainly going to be in every day. Truancy in the JP court is there every single day, and it starts in the home. And what are the penalties if a parent doesn't obey what the truancy law says?
I mean, you can actually fine them $500 each, and so if you stop thinking about how much money you could possibly affect them by on their household, it's a huge dollar amount. But I don't think it's about the money. It's about what else can we give back. How can we take that student and start changing that circle? And what do we have to be able to offer to the parents? You know as well as I do, being a parent of 5, I've had the challenges just like my wife and I have had the challenges just like every other couple in this community. Sometimes it's not about the way we raise our children, it's about others that they have some influence on them. So it's about what is it going to take to allow me to help you as a parent to be able to get your child to understand why they need to attend class, why they can make a difference in the future. Too many times, if it means that they need to sit in class and find out what there's different organizations such as Junior Achievement that can explain to them what the value difference is between an education and a minimum outpaying job a year versus a degreed position or certification now because of drivers that are out there. And I think it's important that whoever sits there understands what opportunities are out there and what programs are out there. And that's what I hope to be able to bring to that bench. It's just not a matter of failure to appear and trying to collect the money. It's about how else can I help you make a difference.
So it's important to reach out to PTAs and elementary, middle school, and high schools to let them know who you are as well and what you're going to do to change, because truancy is something that's certainly going to be in the courts. And let's talk a little bit more about reaching out to the voters. Okay, you have a large precinct.
Yes, sir.
From Flower Bluff to Crosstown, and on this side of SBID. It's a large area. Yeah. There's a lot of people in that area. Alex, for our conservative viewers out there that are thinking, okay, do I want to elect this man as judge? is he the right leader for Precinct 2, Place 2? Let's talk about how you're going to steward the money in the court and your administration of the court and your qualifications to steward the money and why a conservative viewer would want you to be judge.
Well, number one is when you're self-employed, when you've been self-employed, in order to be successful, you have to be conservative. You have to be able to reach out into other venues, in which I did, and I've got a proven history of that, very successful at that. When you're dealing with state agencies and you're dealing with ordinances, local ordinances, and dealing with political challenges, you have to be conservative. But I also believe there's some dollars out there that the court has not had the opportunity to be proactive at. And so what I profess to do is to go out and find out how old are some of the cases, what dollars are sitting out there, and what venue do we have. Today there's an Omni program that actually allows us to download the individual's driver's license on the program that does not allow them to renew their license until they pay what's rightfully owed to the courts. And to be absolutely sure that there's not any backlog, because we're trying to get everything so we become paperless. But I understand we still have challenges for that. But we've got to follow through. And so what I hope to be able to do is, number one, is I have a fiduciary responsibility as an elected official to be sure that the court runs efficiently. It's just not about just hearing cases and then put him docket and then storing them or having failure to appear. It's about how are you be proactive to collect those dollars, because that is our responsibility. It's a small budget. It's under $300,000. And so how do you use those dollars efficiently to be able to reach out and effectively to be able to reach out and represent all the individuals in Precinct 2, Place 2?
And for the viewers out there, just real quick, run over a checklist, so to speak, of what is the justice of the peace responsibilities. What are the cases that come before that court?
Eviction notices. If a landlord's trying to evict a tenant, that will come before the court. If there's repairs and remedies that need to be done where the landlord hasn't done it, then the tenant can bring forward a case. Small debt claims and bad debt claims, as an example, credit card losses could be there. Hot check writers, so if you've written a hot check, non-traffic misdemeanors, failure to appear for truancy cases. In addition to that, it's traffic violations. If you have traffic violations issued by the Department of Public Safety, that comes to the JP's court. And there's a few other things, signing warrants, signing up on the warrants. So you have to make yourself available to the police and the sheriff's department. You need to sign search warrants or whatever. So there's truly a gambit. What's really good is that there is a system in place today where the Texas Justice Courts Commission that will allow training. So we will actually get training to become a JP. So that's required. So I believe it's 20 hours worth of solid education, and there's a resource at all times. And not only the resource of the commission itself, but there's a resource if you have a good relationship with your other JPs, that they're able to also reach out. And I've visited with most of the JPs now to be sure that they know that I'm on board, that I want to be a team player, and that I'm going to look to them for leadership and education, because I'm a firm believer that that's where it starts. It starts there, and we don't reinvent the wheel in the court.
It's business court, and you don't have to be an attorney to be a justice of the peace judge. But a successful businessman can effectively run for this and run it effectively. So you have my endorsement.
Thank you, sir.
And the best of luck on your campaign. Mr. Alex Garcia Jr. running for Precinct 2, Place 2, Justice of the Peace. Alex, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Appreciate you.
This has been Equal Time. My name is Thomas Holbein, the host of the show and the CEO of Holbein Publishing and the South Texas Voice. Tell it like it is. Read all about it. We're going to bring it straight to the viewers the way we see it. Thank you very much for tuning in, and have a great day.